While the proposed health care legislation has hit a roadblock, the budget deal is on the fast track. I spoke to eCapitol reporter Shawn Ashley about stories making news at the Capitol. Shawn, the budget deal is moving rapidly toward the governor's desk. What's the latest on that?
Well, that's exactly right. 1 week ago, of course, we were talking about the $7.1 billion budget that the governor and legislative leaders had agreed to. This week, we saw that piece of legislation move through committees, and Thursday it was considered on the House floor, where it was approved 59-40. At the same time, there are a number of related pieces of legislation that have to be approved, budget limit bills that tell agencies how to spend the money that they receive. Both the House and Senate committees are beginning to take those up. The House on Thursday spent a tremendous amount of time in committee looking particularly at the State Department of Education's budget limit bill, and ultimately approved it, but it was after quite a bit of discussion. Back over in the Senate, too, there are some concerns about money that would go into the Capitol Building Maintenance Fund, and we may see some additional legislation as a result of that.
So is that a speed bump that could slow everything down?
I think in some ways it could. On the House side already, they had to lay over 14 pieces of legislation on Thursday related to budget limits that they could have had on the floor this very next week. So that's at least a day that has been lost in legislative activity that'll have to be pushed back. In the Senate, what we're going to have to watch is what they plan to do with the building maintenance money. There are some Senate Republicans who would like to see some limits placed on that. They're fearful that the money could be used for the Native American Cultural Center, which sits incompleted down by I-35 and I-40. They don't want that to happen. In order to do that, they're going to have to introduce some language with that prohibition, which would essentially amend House Speaker T.W. Shannon's House Bill 1910, which was only recently signed by the governor.
There's also been some controversy over a vote.
That's right. During the House consideration of the budget bill on Thursday, it appears that Representative Terry O'Donnell voted even though he wasn't there. House Democrats brought this to the attention of the presiding officer, Mike Jackson. There were a series of motions and other activities on the floor, and ultimately no decision was rendered. House Speaker T.W. Shannon says he intends to look into the matter. House Democrats indicate that they tend to press forward with the matter on Monday when the legislature returns.
A new pension funding plan was rejected by the governor.
That's right. It was kind of an interesting situation. You had one proposal to provide additional money to the state pension plans that did not include a funding mechanism, and another proposal which included a funding mechanism. It would take any money in excess of the rainy day fund deposit each year, if one occurs, and put it into the pensions in order to help alleviate some of that unfunded liability that exists out there, something to the tune of a total of $10 billion. Governor Fallin looked at those two bills. She decided the one that did not include a funding mechanism really wasn't helpful, so she vetoed that. At the same time, though, she signed the one that had the funding mechanism, taking that excess money, and it will go into law. And if we ever exceed the rainy day fund cap, the pensions will receive some additional revenue.
There's not much time left in the session. We'll talk again next week. Shawn Ashley from eCapitol, thank you.
See you next week.